Well, hello and welcome to Mokuzai Design. My name is Nick. In my last video we talked about not wanting to send scraps of wood down to the landfill and what can we do with them, because there's always something to do with a bit of wood. I made a garden bench and I ended up with a little bit of sapele that was left, and sapele, I'm going to moan in every video about the price of wood, I guess. The price of wood is horrendous, so rather than waste it, want to use it. Now what I've done on this particular one, the first one, if you go back you can see that I've made some candlelight holders. In this one I've drawn some shapes on this, just one piece of wood, and I've managed to get two out of it. So I'm going to start getting this underway by getting out the bandsaw, getting it cut out, and in the meantime, for the next couple of minutes at least, you can start to guess as to what I'm going to make. So I've got my piece of wood, I've got my lines drawn out, and I've got my little bandsaw, my tiny little bandsaw, ready to go. I'm going to cut as close as I can to the lines because I know I'm managing to get two out of this piece of wood. I was only going to make the one, it's going to be a one-off, and I'll just shape by hand. If I were making these in production or making a run of them for any stretch of the imagination, then I would use make a template and then use that and use a router. But I'm going to bandsaw it, sand it, and we should be fine with that. Okay, so all cut out. I'm not too sure if you can already guess now what I'm making, but they are going to be boot jacks, and the reason for them is I've got a dog and I walk the dog even in winter. Now surprisingly, this is July, I think it's July the 1st today, so middle of British summer, so I've got a jumper on and my gilet thing on because it's summer in the UK. Now I appreciate that I live in Wales, so we only ever know it's summer because the rain is warmer, but it is actually blinking cold today. So, well, as far as summer's concerned, the only way is up from here, but the weather forecast for the next couple of weeks is rain. So there you go. Two cut. Now I'm going to swap the machines over, and as if by magic, let's get the sander. So, sanding machine, get these all sanded up, get these nice and sanded down to the lines. I will be routering around the edges shortly, but I just want to get them nice and smooth, and then I can also use the bobbin sander to make sure I'm getting into these nice curves and get them all done properly before we get on to the next level. A bit more work to be done on that one, it's a bit wobbly, but let's crack on. So that's very annoying, losing one of those. It's actually, I'll show you, it's actually splitting along there, which I should have noticed when I cut it out really. My fault, this one, absolutely perfect. So we have still got the one that I wanted to start with. What I'm going to do here now is I'm just measuring little 1 centimeter increments. and these are just going to be putting some grip lines on the foot part of the bench, of the boot jack. One of those little laborious jobs that you want to get right, otherwise when you go to cut them, they're going to be uneven. If you're from the UK, you know that there's an election going on at the moment. If you're not from the UK, we have something called a general election, which is where we elect our next government. And I'm under the umbrella of undecided. I'm going to be honest with you and think most politicians are as bad as each other. So I don't know if they all promise the earth, but don't necessarily deliver it, do they? As woodworkers, we try to over-deliver, and they try to under-deliver, which seems to be par for the course. Now, I'm not going to waste this. What I'm going to be using, I was going to use a different bit of scrapwood, but I've got this now. So I will cut a little bit of this, which is going to be the footrest underneath there. So I'll cut a bit of that later. So it's at least utilising some of this wood. Right, next job. That away, router out. Okay, so it's quite nice actually. Nice little half round, nothing much to it. I will actually take off any little edges with a bit of hand sanding now, just to make sure that that's nice and rounded. But, you know, sapele is such a lovely piece of wood, you can't really get it wrong, can you? So, next stage, over to the miter saw. We're going to get these grip lines cut in, and then also we're going to get a little dado put in there, ready to receive whatever it is I make out of this. I think I'll cut a little bit of a chunk of this out now before we go any further, so I can measure that up. Okay, grip lines. Okay, so I've set the depth stop on the miter saw. I've clamped the workpiece down. The shadow line that's caused by the miter saw now is nice and straight across the cut. So get me glasses and just make that first cut. And then it's just a matter of making sure that I can move up in equal spaces here now, making sure the shadow line is falling on each of my marks. Making sure that they're parallel, obviously. Clamp it off. It's a bit of a laborious job, like all woodwork can be laborious sometimes, can't it? So as you can see, a very simple process, just a matter of, I put a depth stop on this, but basically it's just a lot of lines evenly marked out so that I've got a little bit of a grip for my boot or my sock when I'm taking my boots off. So it's starting to take shape. The next thing now is to put a little piece in here to raise it up. So it's raised up slightly so you can just easily fit in the heel of your boot. So got a little piece cut out, and I'll be going underneath there like that to raise it up so that you've got your boot jack. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it out now, the width, and cut that out ready for a dado. Just a little tiny depth stop dado again, and then get this piece here. I'll router this just like I've routed with a small little half round, and make sure it's obviously cut to size. Might even cut a shape in it, haven't decided yet. It's going to be part of the organic design series, this. Okay, so I'm just going to crack on with that now. First job, mark it out, pencil. Okay, so just cut a little dado in there with a miter saw. And what I've decided to do is leave this as it is for the moment, because it fits in there nicely. Fits in there nicely. Gonna get some clamps on there in a second. And got a bit of rag. There's a bit of rag. And get this clamped up for a couple of hours, and for a while anyway, and get that cleaned up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that as it is at the moment, and then I just thought it'd be a good idea to experiment with one of the Japanese saws, you know, this little flush cut bit, so that I can just practice sort of like shaping with it and that type of stuff really. So it's just going to give me something to do. Just pop a couple of clamps on this for a little time being. And then what I will do is go and find somewhere for a coffee. Well, I don't actually have to find anywhere. I know exactly where the coffee is. There's my rag again. Just get that off there now. Let's clean up later. Right, I'll leave that for the time being. We'll be back shortly. Okay, all glued in. I've drawn some lines at angles here. I've got a little trim saw blade, using the bigger side obviously. And I'm just going to cut these off at an angle, and then I'll finish it off with a bit of sanding. And that's what it looks like if you can see it. So I'll just get this one done. Okie dokie. Got some 80 grit here. Right, what I'm going to do is, they've been in the clamps for quite some time now. So that's what I've ended up with. I've ended up with a boot jack. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit off with the sandpaper. In fact, I might just get the orbital sander out and just finish that off. So if you've been to the channel before, you will know that this is my favourite bit. Putting a bit of oil on to obviously I've done a little bit more hand sanding, and in their grooves there. I've done a bit more hand sanding, and now it's just a matter of putting some oil on the finished article. Now, the reason I use hard wax oil is that I don't particularly like varnishes and polyurethanes and that. I think they give the wood, just getting in the grooves here, I think they give the wood a plasticky look, and it's not a look. I mean, it's all down to personal preference, isn't it? Some people love it, but I don't like shiny wood. I like it to look like wood, but on the other hand, I need it protected as well. Getting down those grooves is fun. But this is my favourite part because it just brings out the grain of the wood, which is what I like to see. Just get it in there, get it in there. I'm going to be finishing off with a lint-free cloth, as I always do, and begins to just becomes alive when you've added a bit of oil. Just a bit of oil, that's all it takes. Now, just before I finish this oil, this is a simple project that you can do as a beginner. If you're more experienced, they're nice to be able to put together as presents at Christmas and things like that. You can put it on your things to make for Christmas list. But they're also very handy around the house, these. Especially if, like me, you've got a dog and you're forever wearing, in winter anyway, forever wearing wellies. Right, a bit of lint-free cloth. As I said, it's simple for beginners to use, and people will say, well, you know, I'm a beginner and I haven't got a mitre saw and you can do it with any saw, you know, just cut it to shape. Might take a little bit longer, but that's all part of the fun of woodworking. It's, for me, woodworking is a little bit like escapism. At the moment, all we've got on television, I can stay at home, but all we've got on a television, you know, there's the boot jack. All we've got on television at the moment is football from the Euros, and I'm not a great fan of football, in all honesty. Politics, because we're coming up to a general election. On Wimbledon, well, I'm not really that. I like tennis, but I like watching, you know, sort of the men's final and things like that. Sorry, ladies, I don't like watching the ladies' final. I like watching the men's final at Wimbledon. And with the Euros, with the football, even though I'm not into football at all and I don't know anything about it, I probably will watch the bigger matches. In fact, last night I did watch England versus Slovakia. Didn't understand really what was going on. For apparently we played awful and then we played brilliantly. Well, I say we, I'm Welsh, not English, but I'll put them down as British for the moment. So that's my finished article. Little boot jack, handy for the house, handy for the back door when I'm coming in from work, walking the dog, and an easy build. Okay, that's another little scrap wood challenge done. I'll put this, put that down to number 2 on the little series. I've got a few to do, but I do have a video coming up with the 3 worst, not the worst tools, 3 tools that I regret buying for various reasons, which will be coming up very, very shortly as well. Okay, until the next time, take good care.